Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wellbeing at Work, a conversation that can no longer wait. Please write in comments from where you're joining. We are always eager to hear from you. For those who are joining us today for the first time, let me introduce myself. I'm Neetu Choudhary, your host for today's virtual conference. I'm a business and leadership coach, keynote speaker, board member, advisor, executive speaking coach, and an author. What I do, I help leaders make smart decisions, create an impact with their voice, and be remarkable. I'm also the host of podcast Lead with Neetu and the founder of Speaker Bureau, Evolvitude Speakers. And today I get to do what I love the most, bringing brilliant minds together for a conversation that really matters for businesses across the globe. And as we gather virtually from across the globe, the world of work is facing one of the silent crises, and the numbers are impossible to ignore. When I was going through one of the research paper, I found that according to Gallup's State of Global Workplace report, low employee engagement costing globally for companies staggering $9.6 trillion annually. Let's put it in a context. That's equivalent to 9% GDP of the world. And let's understand it further. The world is losing $1.48 million every single second just because of disengaged employees. So the this discussion is not something good to have. This is a must to have discussion. But there is a great news as well here. In UAE, more than 85% of employees report feeling physically and mentally well. While global survey says that the 17% of workforce employees are only meeting the criteria of being mentally healthy, and burnout is not an occasional thing, they are frequently facing that one. And that's exactly why we are here today. Organizations that invest in well being see $3.80 ROI, return on their investment for each single dollar. And this is so important. I'll repeat it one more time. For every single dollar spent on well being, the return is $3.8. So that's a big number. And leaders who prioritize people do not just build better culture, but they build a better business for sustainable time. So today is about turning attention into action. All our speakers have prepared brilliant conversation for you with practical implementation of all the strategies. So whether you are a CEO, HR leader, HR manager, or anyone who is related to the business and who really cares about every human being behind the work, this is a space for you to learn. So be ready with your pen and paper and gadgets wherever you want to make the notes. And let's get started. And before that, I would like to say we are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So please make sure you join anywhere. Have a two-way interaction, write in comments. If there is a time delay, our speakers will reply later to you. And with this thing, I would like to introduce our brilliant speaker. And I'm still figuring out how to pronounce her name correctly, Nadia Vijendran. Now, before I talk more about her, I want to say something. A quick question for all of you. Did you know that companies with highly effective HR practices are 3.5 times more likely to outperform their competitor? So I think that's the best strategy to stand out in a business. And great HRs is not only about the support, it's a strategy for the organization. So our first speaker today is someone who has spent more than 20 years in shaping some of the most prestigious organization across the globe in finance and property. Let's welcome Nadia Vijendran. She's an HR business partner, talent management expert who has worked with global giants including Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and Citibank across multiple geographies and industries, from investment banking to corporate, from retail to property. And she has seen HR in every angle, every single organization. She has uplifted the HR practices. She brings the in depth experience in everything she does in her life, not only the HR part, any wherever, whichever vertical she touches in business, she is doing brilliantly. She is known for her sharp strategic thinking, her ability to drive meaningful process and improvement, and her passion for building workplace where people genuinely thrive. So today she'll be talking about designing workplace for real life. As I mentioned, all practical strategies you are going to get today. So be ready with your pen and paper. And please give a warm virtual welcome to Miss Nadia Vijendran. Thank you so much, Nadia, for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Neetu, for this kind introduction. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for having me today. And Neetu, really special thank you for organizing this wonderful event and for giving the opportunity for us to speak up. And I'm delighted to be here and to speak about the topic which is increasingly becoming very important for both employees and organizations. And this is well-being at work. By way of introduction, I work really hard for many corporations, international and smaller scale ones, in various industries. And through my career, I had the opportunity to observe what helps individuals and companies to succeed. And one lesson has become really obvious. Um, People do their best work when they feel supported, valued, and respected. And when employee thrives, the organizations inevitably thrive automatically. Only those companies that understand this are often the ones that attract, engage, and retain the best talent. Why this topic is important for all of us? The reason is very simple. Just because employee well-being is no longer only HR initiative, it impacts everyone, no matter which hat you are wearing, whether you are a business leader, whether you are an HR expert, you are just an employee. So this brings us to today's topic, which is well-being at work. And for many years, work and life have been perceived as something separate. In reality, it is different. And during my session, I will explore what has changed over the years, why it has become so important now, and what organizations can do in order to create the environment where people can succeed both professionally and personally. So the question is no longer whether employee can adapt to work. The real question is whether the work can adapt to the realities of people's lives. And before we move forward with the presentation, I just wanted to ask you to reflect on these four questions. Who has children or helps care for children? Who supports elderly parents or relatives? Who works fixed office hours? And who has ever had to choose between work and family commitments? And I see from the comments that already people started responding that everyone actually does. The majority of us, this actually brings us to the criticality of this topic to everyone. Yeah, so looking at the responses, it's clear that many of us are balancing multiple responsibilities alongside our jobs. So we're not only employees, and this is exactly why today's topic matters. For most people, work is just one part of life, not whole of it. Okay, let me move on. For decades, organizations viewed employees primarily from the lens: a person comes to work, performs his tasks, and goes home. In reality, many employees simultaneously with delivering business results are raising their children, supporting elderly parents, managing households, and taking care of their own well-being. They are not switching between these responsibilities. They are carrying them all at the same time. So to bring this to life, this visual on the slide illustrates what a typical day may look like for someone balancing work, family, and caregiving commitments. A school run in the morning, a team meeting, a call from an aging parent, a project deadline, homework and dinner, coordinating care for a family member, and perhaps checking work messages before the end of the day. And this is the reality many people navigate every day. And this is just Tuesday. And tomorrow, most likely, the day will be very much similar. This topic actually resonates very strongly with me because for almost 5 years, when my child was little, and my mom was helping me to support him, I had to commute almost 4 hours a day to work and back from the office. And 4 hours a day, this is 20 hours per week. This is almost 100 hours per month. Looking back, I honestly do not understand how I managed it. And this experience taught me that well-being is not simply about resilience or better time management. Sometimes people already do their best, and the question becomes, can workplaces better support them? And this is exactly what we will explore further. Looking at the previous slide, you may ask, what has happened that today employees are carrying more caregiving responsibilities than ever before? And the answer is that several demographic and social trends have come up together at the same time. People are having children later in their life. People are living longer, which means that more employees are supporting their aging parents for a longer period of time. More households having two adults working. Family members often live in different countries or in different cities, and technology has drastically blurred the border between personal life and work. As a result, employees today are often balancing multiple caregiving and work responsibilities at the same time. And one of the fastest growing employee groups nowadays is known as the sandwich generation. These are individuals who are simultaneously caring for their children and aging parents while managing their own work responsibilities and careers. So the sandwich image on the slide is actually the demonstration that they are literally sandwiched between two generations who depend on them. And research shows that more than half of adults in their 40s support both children and aging parents. This is a significant part of today's workforce. And this brings us to a very, very important point. Employees are not less resilient than previous generations. The challenge is not lack of commitment or capability. The challenge is complexity. And the demand on people's time, energy, focus, emotional capacity have increased significantly. And understanding this reality is the first step towards creating the workplaces where people can be supported in the best way possible, and they will be able to perform at their best. When work competes with caregiving responsibilities, the impact extends beyond employee well-being. And this slide illustrates very shocking statistics. 84% of caregivers report a moderate or high impact on daily stress. 80% of respondents say that caregiving affects their productivity at work. And most strikingly, nearly 1 in 3 employees has left a job because of caregiving responsibilities. And so the message is pretty clear. Caregiving pressure affects well-being, performance, and retention. So caregiving is no longer a personal issue, it is a workplace issue. There is a positive thing to say, that companies are indeed responding to changing workforce realities. Historically, family support focused primarily on maternity, paternity care, medical insurance, and flexible work arrangements. Over time, employers expanded support to mental health, well-being, return to work programs, and parenting communities. Today, employees increasingly expect support that reflects their individual needs. their personal circumstances, and their life stages. 59% of employees would consider leaving to the company which offers benefits that better meet their personal needs. So, leading organizations are moving from parent friendly workplaces to life friendly workplaces. And where is workplace well-being heading next? The key trend is that well-being is moving from being a nice to have benefit to becoming a business expectation. Great illustration is flexibility. This was considered like a benefit in the past, and now it is becoming a standard expectation. So we're also seeing a shift away from uniform approaches towards all employees to more personalized support and benefits. And as a result, organizations are introducing initiatives such as caregiving leave, family well-being programs, support to the sandwich generation, and even 4-day work week pilots. Why leaders should care? Because employee work well-being is not only about doing the right thing for people, it is also about achieving better business outcomes. And family and caregiving responsibilities have a direct impact on attraction, retention, engagement, and productivity. And the data on this slide tells a very compelling story. Nearly 1 in 3 employees has left the job because their work could not be reconciled with their caregiving responsibilities. At the same time, employees are significantly more likely to stay with organizations that support them through different stages and family responsibilities. And in other words, when organizations support employees, employees are better to support their organizations, are better able to support their organizations. So the result is stronger retention, higher engagement, and more attractive employer brand. And as we come to the end of today's session, I would like to leave you with one final thought. People do not live their lives at the office door. Every day, employees bring with them their responsibilities for their families and their personal challenges. This does not mean that employers are totally responsible for the well-being of their employees. Employees still have the opportunity to and the responsibility to take care of their well-being themselves. However, well-being is most effective when it becomes a shared responsibility between employers and employees. And the organization that will thrive in the future will be those who recognize this reality and design work around the lives people actually live today. Because when people thrive, performance, engagement, and business results follow. Thank you very much for your attention, and you're welcome with your questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Nadia. It was such a good discussion. And as you were speaking, I was making notes. I love this concept of sandwich generation. It is so true, actually. We are stuck between two. And in India, we have a saying that we are the only generation who heard from our parents and hearing from our children as well. We never got opportunity to speak something.
Indeed.
Yeah. And this 1/3 of employees leaving the job because of the caregiving responsibility, I think it's a big number, because in the age of AI, having retaining the talent is so important. And if with little bit of care and affection and understanding their perspective will change the entire scenario.
This is very true. This is very true. And as I mentioned in the presentation, that only those companies who understand the importance of this will be those who will be very successful in future.
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, Nadia, for your time today.
Thank you very much.
And all the speakers I have, all the participants, I have shared her LinkedIn profile on comment. So please connect with her, follow her work. She's doing brilliant work and you will love it, actually. Thanks, Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
And now we will move to our another brilliant speaker, Dr. Lela. So let me introduce her to you first. And before that, I have a question for all of you. In 2025, do you know that oil and gas industry, the sector, ranked among one of the highest risk industry for employee burnout and psychological stress globally? It's a global data. And the good news is that what one leader did next would inspire you. Our next speaker is truly redefining what well being at work looks like, not just in UAE, but across the globe. And I'm following her work for a really long time and big fan of her passion, the change which she brings to the world. That's a big, big thing, actually. So let me tell you a little bit brief about her. Dr. Laila Kazim. She's an Emirati physician, workforce well-being strategist, operational well-being leader with over 18 years of experience spanning from healthcare, operational well-being, psychological risk management, a lot more than that. She currently serves as the staff engagement and well-being manager at one of the largest oil and gas company in the region, leading strategic well-being and psychological safety initiatives across the workforce for more than 6,500 employees at high risk, operational demand, environment, and lot of challenges across the globe. So she is doing big things. And under her leadership, her organization became one of the first in the oil and gas sector in MENA region to achieve ISO 45003 certificate. So let's clap for her for psychological safety, psychological health and safety at work, which is like the historical milestone in 2025. And she'll be talking today about from well-being to workforce performance, leadership, culture, and human potential. So let's welcome Dr. Leila Kazim.
Thank you very much, Neetu. I really appreciate the introduction, and I'm so happy to be here today. And this is such a privilege to be on, to be able to provide this information globally to people who are interested in improving their workforce and to provide more care for their employees. So today I'll be speaking about well-being at scale, turning our blue-collar workforce care into business performance. I think Neetu did a very good introduction about me and what I have achieved with the oil and gas industry. And this is just the beginning of more exciting things that are going to be coming up. So, just going to brief you on a few important points today. So, my question here for you today is, what if the biggest driver of business performance isn't technology, strategy, or process, but the condition of people doing that work? So when we talk about performance, what would come to mind? Like generally speaking, I could, if anyone would like to put in some comments, what do you think would be, what would come to your mind when you discuss about performance? Sales, productivity, customer experience, safety, retention. But behind each one of these metrics is a human being. I'm going to share some studies, and Gallup has found that highly engaged teams experience 78% less absenteeism and 14% increased productivity. UAE loses billions annually through mental health related productivity losses. Yet many organizations still view well-being as a cohort rather than a business lever. So what if well-being isn't a welfare activity at all? And what if it is one of the most underutilized performance strategies available to leaders today? So the three key performance indicators we should all be focusing on is productivity. So the question here is, can employees consistently perform at their best? The second thing is operational risk and safety. Are employees fit to perform work safely? And the third important performance indicator is retention and workforce stability. So do people want to remain part of this organization? So if well-being influences productivity, safety, and retention, then it is no longer simply an HR initiative. This becomes a business performance strategy. So when we speak about workforce stability, this is one of the most important key performance indicators. When we speak about workforce stability, we consider two major aspects: the physical perspective, so the physical health, and the mental health. So when we speak about physical health provides the physiological parameters, and I could not stress any more about the three values or three factors. And these three values I'm going to speak about now will give you a snapshot of our body's functions. Many of you know blood pressure, blood glucose, and cholesterol are three important indicators that will give us an idea of how our health is moving. And this is what I teach to our employees. A lot of industries, organizations focus on the physical perspective and physical health of a person's overall well being, but then they surely forget about the second half, which is the mental health. So, when we speak about mental health, the mental health improves. Sorry. So, when we speak about the mental health, we talk about eight pillars, eight well-being pillars that would give us an understanding of our overall mental health. So when the workforce health improves, then we begin to see the outcomes that matter to the business. So increased productivity, safer operations, and more stable workforce. These are the eight pillars of well-being. At the end of it, it all reflects on our overall mental health. So let us start with the physical perspective. So when it comes to a physical perspective or the physical pillar of the well-being, most people can relate to this in terms of their overall health. But in fact, it's more deeper. So we check in to see if people are well rested, if they're hydrated, if they're nourished, and if they have been physically healthy by keeping themselves physically active. This helps to generate energy, gives them a chance of being more resilient, and also a capacity to cope for stress. And a clear example I'd like to share, I don't have them on here on the slides, but a clear picture of what we actually do with our employees is we go down into depth and focus on hydration of the employees. We make sure they are doing the physical activity, stretches, breathing activity, exercises. We talk about nutrition in the sense of introducing fermented cultured food. And we also include sleep in our talks. We've realized that once we have looked at all aspects of the physical health, internally and externally, then we realize that blood pressure can decrease after physical activity. I think many of you might have seen this video that was posted online not so long ago about an employee working at an oil and gas station. And with the smiles that come on their face, this energy, you cannot lie with this energy. This guy comes to work very happy and is enthusiastic about his job. And you could tell that such a person could not have come to work if he wasn't physically well. Can any one of you put a price to this energy of this guy? I have a question for the guys, if there's anyone who's following us at this moment. I think most of you would relate with someone who's left his wife at home and has come to work saying he's completely free of any responsibilities at that moment. And this made me laugh when I saw this guy and he was so happy at work. I said he probably left his wife at home and tried to, enjoy his morning. So this was something really out of the box. And I was really happy when I saw such photographs going viral on social media. The second pillar of well-being are environmental factors. So making sure our workplaces are safe. We going and checking in with the employees at their accommodations and seeing if all safety protocols are put in place and the employees have a safe space to spend their free time. So when we talk about environmental factors are considered as your workplace being safe, comfortable, and decreasing the stressors while creating conditions where people can recover and perform at their best. The third aspect, or the third well-being pillar, is focusing on the actual support. We provide at our organization, we provide mental health support for our employees. We provide them support through the well-being or welfare coordinators. And we also provide sessions for them. So when they have given that space to actually express their concerns safely and learn coping skills, they are better equipped to manage their life changes before they become a crisis. Another aspect of the well-being pillar is our social. Social interaction is very, very important for all individuals. And we do that through different types of games, community activities, engagements, sessions for therapy, like art therapy, giving them that room to express themselves and to develop relationships. Because once somebody has stronger relationships and a sense of belonging and community, there's a reduction in loneliness and creates a protective buffer against stress and psychological distress. So, research involving 3.4 million participants found that loneliness increases mortality by 26%. And for those who feel socially isolated, it increases mortality by 29%. And what about those living alone? That is the most, in terms of percentage, increase in mortality risk by 32%. So, the most effective interventions for reducing loneliness focus on strengthening that social skills, the increasing the chances of opportunities for connection with others, enhancing support networks, and finally addressing maladaptive social thinking patterns. This is why we run our programs and we focus on a holistic 360 wellness program, making sure every individual feels included in the activities, are able to share. In the beginning, they might feel shy, but once they start interacting with their members from their community or from their organization, then they kind of sense a sense of belonging. And that's our aim. Another important factor of the well-being pillar is the intellectual part, providing the employees awareness sessions, campaigns, giving them a chance for learning capabilities, leadership, opportunities to learn and to grow and develop the skills can build someone confidence and adaptability and greater sense of purpose and achievement. Another pillar we also consider is the financial aspect. We provide sessions to the employees regarding budgeting, but not just budgeting. We focus on boundaries. So, reducing financial stress allows the employees to focus on their work, their family, and the future, rather than constantly worrying about immediate financial pressures, and helping them understand where holding healthy boundaries is very essential. A lot of our employees have a tendency to share the specifications of their salary and their savings with their spouses or with their employees. And this is very shocking because that means they have no personal boundaries. And that influence of their family or spouse has a great impact then on the mental health. The employees are educated when they are joining our company to understand that there are some things that they are supposed to keep to themselves. They have a right to look after their health. So compromising on food quality or on health is not an exception. These people have families to go back to, and if they don't look after their health and put in financially towards their food and their well-being, then the outcome is not, it's very ugly. Another aspect of the well-being we also include in our programs is the occupational. Occupational pillar is an important pillar. So supportive leadership. We give training to leadership. We talk to the employees about fair workloads, about recognition programs that the company have, and involve them in some activities that could lead them to these recognitions. So meaningful work foster engagement can protect against burnout and disengagement. So we do engagement surveys as well to understand where the employees are falling. If they lack in anything specific, we know where to target next. So if they felt that they weren't recognized or if workload was unfair for any reason, we include in some sort of surveys and we look into where the managers are and how has work been distributed, especially when there are 24-hour operations that are going on in the industries. And last but not least, the spiritual aspect of well-being is very, very important. So a sense of meaning of values, faith, or connection to something greater than oneself can actually strengthen the resilience, hope, and emotional stability during difficult times. This is why we interact with our employees and we serve as a reminder to them to reach back to their roots, going back to what they were brought upon, what they have belief in, what they were practicing. Many employees come to our country and they change their lifestyle. They go like, oh, we're moving back, we're moving to Dubai, so that means we have to change our lifestyle. We have to change the way we eat or the way we behave, and this is something that causes a huge disruption in the overall well-being, which then eventually leads to mental health. So I highly encourage our new employers or new joiners, new employees or new joiners, so that when they transition to a new job or they are moving to a new country, they should never forget where they are coming from, what they have been practicing. A lot of their genetics are based on their backgrounds. So I tell them where what you've been brought upon is the correct things to follow. You might need to maneuver yourself to fit in certain schedules, but not to change your patterns of eating, sleeping, your belief systems, because all of that contribute to the overall mental well-being. So, as we're wrapping up over here, I wanted to mention that mental health is not built through a single intervention. It is what shapes our everyday. And this is how we have created or curated a very special 360 wellness program for our employees, especially for the blue workforce. People tend to focus mainly on the head office levels, the white collars, but nobody really looks into the well being of the blue collars. And after realizing the struggles that each individual go through, I'm not indicating that we have no issues with people from the head office level, but the ones who are being neglected the most, and the ones who actually serve purpose to the company, need to be looked after if we're looking about the three major performance key indicators is safer operations, having the retention. Those are the important factors we need to look into. And this is why I had put major focus on our workforce stability. And that comes down not just to your physical health, but including your mental well being. And this is why every company and organization needs to think more outside the box, more holistically. So I'm going to leave you with this question. If your employees walked out today, not to leave, but to find themselves, would your organization be the place they would come back to? Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Dr. Leila. I loved it, and especially the last question. It's so profound that most people don't ask this question, and until we ask the question, how will we give the answer for it? And I love when you mention about the 8 pillars. It is brilliant because you're combining the physical and the mental aspect so beautifully, like the occupational and the spiritual. Like we consider it the two end of the spectrum, and you have combined it into one cycle itself. And by the way, slide was beautiful. I loved it. That color combination and all, it was brilliant.
Well, thank you very much. And this is what I advise to most organizations. If they focus on the complete 360 wellness program, or at least 360 wellness aspect, I'm sure that most of the companies will be able to achieve the ISO 45003, because now this is an extension of the occupational health, where people initially were thinking about the physical aspect of things, and now we're shifting now to include the psychological safety at work. And we look at those parameters and look what are the risks, what are the factors or placements we can do to navigate or to mitigate those risks. This will help us instill more understanding into the higher management leadership, and also have their organizations achieve such a recognized ISO certificate around psychological safety at work.
That's right. And I think you are the only one who has implemented an entire region. It's like the first time it's being done. And companies will start doing it now.
Yes, we look forward to that.
Thank you so much for your time. It was superbly lovely discussion.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have spoken about occupational health. We are going to talk about something which is a buzzword everywhere. AI, AI, AI. And before that, I want to ask you something. Research shows that on an average, we make around 35,000 decisions in a day. And it's a kind of paradox, but AI is not reducing that number. So if you're thinking you have given something to AI, the number of decisions are reduced. No, it's alert for you. It's actually increasing the cognitive weight on every single one of us. And that's what today's discussion is, because it's impacting the mental and physical well-being at work. So now we move into the territory that's shaping the future of every workplace on the planet: artificial intelligence and what it means to our mind, human mind, not how we feel about it, but what does it mean. So let me introduce you to Elif Karagos. She's a digital transformation leader passionate about unlocking human capital potential in the age of AI and Gen AI. But what truly sets Elif apart is that she's not just a thinker, which most of the people are. She's the actual doer, always talking about the practical action item. And that's why in the beginning I told you, please be ready with your pen and paper if you're watching live. If not, then whenever you see the recording, make sure you make notes. And let me tell you something interesting about her. She's not only great in AI and tech, she's an endurance athlete, marathon runner, triathlete. Every time I struggle with this word. An Ironman 70.3 finisher. I'm yet to understand what it means, but it looks really great. Elif brings that same extraordinary discipline and focus to her work and her speaking. And I've heard her multiple times. What stands out is her natural, bold, brilliant, engaging style of speaking, making tech so simple to understand and implement. And today she is exploring with us the next frontier of well being, cognitive well being in the age of AI, which most of us are not paying attention to. So please welcome Elif Karagos. Thank you so much, Elif, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Neetu. Actually, it's my pleasure for giving us the platform to discuss and share our thoughts. So I'm very grateful for that. So good morning, Neetu, and good morning, everyone. And AI is transforming almost every aspect of work. It is changing how we write, how we analyze, communicate, create, and make decisions. But there is one thing it is not changing. It is human brain. And it is what I would like to explore today with you all. So when we look back at the human history, a fascinating pattern begins to emerge. Every major invention removed some form of physical burden from human life. Each reduced effort, and every time we freed capacity, we redirected it to somewhere else. From home appliances to transportation solutions, this is an important pattern. Technology rarely eliminates effort, it shifts the effort. Today, we became so successful at reducing physical effort that many of us deliberately need to schedule it back into our daily lives. For our ancestors, physical effort was built into daily living. Today, many of us exercise because it isn't. We pay for gym memberships, we track our steps, we go running. It's a fascinating irony. We spent generations reducing physical effort only to discover how important it was for our well-being. And I think there is a lesson hidden in that story, which we can also apply for the age of AI. Every time technology changes the nature of human effort, we eventually need to adapt with new habits, new norms, new practices, and sometimes even entirely new ways of thinking. And today, AI creating another of these shifts. So AI helps our minds, in contradiction to most previous technologies, help with our bodies. And that makes it fundamentally different from most technologies that came before it. For the first time, we are beginning to automate parts of our cognitive work itself: writing, research, summarization, analysis, presentation creation, information retrieval. And I say that as someone who genuinely believes in the potential of these tools. The value and the opportunities they create is real. But every powerful innovation creates also new questions. And one of the most important questions emerging today is this: if technology rarely eliminates effort and instead shifts it, where is that effort moving today with AI technology? To answer that question, we need to distinguish between three concepts, I believe: workload, cognitive load, and cognitive energy. So let's explore them a little bit more. Workload is simply how much work exists, how many tasks, how many projects, how many deliverables. Most organizations are comfortable measuring workload, but workload is only one part of the story. Cognitive load is how mentally demanding that workload is. Two people can have the same workload and experience completely different cognitive loads. And then there is cognitive energy, the finite biological resource that powers our thinking, our focus, attention, creativity, and our judgment. These three concepts are related, but they are not the same. And I believe understanding this distinction is becoming increasingly important in the age of AI, both for organizations and both for individuals. Because AI is becoming remarkably effective at reducing workload, the effort required to generate an output. But as generation becomes easier, a new question emerges: what happens to the cognitive load and cognitive energy required to evaluate, validate, simply to complete that workload? And this is where things become interesting, because reducing workload does not automatically reduce cognitive load. In many cases, it simply shifts where cognitive energy is being spent on. And this brings us to what I believe is one of the central paradoxes of the AI age. AI has increased generation capacity, but it has not increased our cognitive capacity. So think about a single example. Perhaps yesterday, without AI, I could prepare 2 presentations or reports in a day. Today, with AI, I can prepare 5. Wonderful. Productivity increase. My managers are loving me. But what about 10? AI doesn't seem to have a problem generating 10 or even thousands in a single day. But can I review 10 presentations with the same quality of judgment, with the same quality of critical thinking, attention to detail? Can I identify risks at the same level? And can I make decisions with the same quality? These are the important questions, because generation is no longer the constraint, because AI is shifting the effort towards cognitive load. And I believe this helps explain something many knowledge workers are experiencing today. They are becoming more productive, yet they do not necessarily feel less mentally exhausted. Recent workplace research has even begun using terms such as AI brain fry to describe this phenomenon. The challenge is not producing more anymore. The challenge is sustaining the cognitive energy required to process more. And one of my favorite observations from AI is that every AI model has limits. Every AI model has a context window, token limits, and compute constraints. And we do too. Human beings have something even AI models have not escaped: finite compute. And I find this analogy useful because it helps us to explain something many of us intuitively feel. Our brains are not infinite resources. They operate with constraints, which we frequently feel in every 24 hours time window. Our brains operate with limited processing resources and limited energy budgets. Most of us do not suffer from a lack of information. If anything, we suffer from the opposite. Too many emails, too many messages, too many notifications, too many things competing for our attention. AI is making information generation easier than ever before, but easier generation does not automatically create easier processing. And because unlike AI systems, we cannot just simply another GPU cluster, and that reality matters more than ever. So what happens when the volume of information people must process grows faster than their cognitive capacity? If we step back and look at the broader pattern of technologies, something interesting becomes visible. The bottleneck has moved. The effort has shifted, just as if with any other major innovation before. For generations, technology reduced physical effort. Now AI is reducing cognitive effort. As a result, something else becomes more valuable. The ability and capacity of humans to evaluate, interpret, and make sense of complexity. AI is reducing the cost and effort of generating information. The challenge is no longer creating the content. The challenge is making sense of it. While as any other technology being invented, AI is also shifting this effort rather than eliminating it. So the question, where is that effort is being shifted? And what does that mean for well-being? When we discuss well-being generally, we usually talk about physical well-being, emotional well-being, social, occupational, financial, environmental, and all of these matter. But AI is changing the nature of human effort. If it is changing how we spend attention, if it is changing where cognitive energy is required, then perhaps we need to ask a new question. Do we need to update the way we think about well-being? Perhaps the clue lies in where the effort is being shifted. More of our effort is moving toward evaluating, interpreting more complex mental tasks. In other words, the increasingly valuable and effort requiring human work is cognitive work. And that points us toward a dimension of well-being we rarely discuss explicitly, cognitive well-being. And by cognitive well-being, I mean our ability to sustain attention, judgment, creativity, critical thinking, and decision quality without chronic cognitive exhaustion. Most importantly, cognitive well-being does not replace the dimensions we already know. It depends on them. Sleep affects it, exercise, nutrition, emotional well-being, social connection affects it. Therefore, the age of AI is not diminishing the importance of traditional well-being. Perhaps it is revealing just how interconnected those dimensions have always been. What would cognitive well-being look like? So for this, I want to look back and remind ourselves what we have learned throughout history of previous technologies. Take the industrial age. We developed physical ergonomics to protect human body from the capabilities of machines. We created lifting limits, safety standards, protective equipment, workplace design principles, simply because we recognize that human bodies have limits We would never ask a warehouse worker to manually lift 10 tons of material simply because a machine could move that much. Nobody would consider that reasonable or sustainable. And today we face a different yet remarkably similar challenge. Machines are beginning to exceed not only physical capabilities, but also our cognitive capabilities. They can generate information at a scale no human can match. Yet, in the knowledge work, we increasingly expect humans to process, evaluate, verify, and judge volumes of information generated by these systems whose capacity far exceeding our own. And perhaps that should make us pause. As the industrial age required physical ergonomics, the AI age requires something similar but different as cognitive ergonomics. Similar because, in its essence, it's fundamentally just designing work around human cognitive realities, not just AI capabilities. And I believe this creates a new responsibility for all of us. As individuals, we need to understand what we are offloading to AI systems. We need to understand and acknowledge that we have a cognitive budget. We need to protect our cognitive energy, not because we want to do less, but we want to think better. And as organizations face this responsibility as well, for decades, productivity was largely measured by volume. How much could we produce? How quickly we could produce? How efficiently could we produce it? Those measures made sense because when most innovations were reducing the effort required to create output. But AI changes that equation. And that means organizations may need to ask new questions, especially in the case of knowledge workers. How well are we deciding? How well are we prioritizing? And how well we are thinking? Because if we continue to measure only productivity, we risk optimizing for the wrong outcomes in the age of AI. The age of AI calls for more broader and more intelligent set of measures. And as a final thought, I would like to leave you with this. For generations, humanity has adapted to extraordinary technological change. We adapted to electricity, we adapted to machines, to automobiles, computers, internet, and now we are adapting to AI. As always, technology itself is only one part of the story. The bigger question is how we adapt to it, how we design our lives, our works, our organizations, and our society around it. In the industrial age, we learned how to protect the human body from the speed, scale, and power of machines. Physical ergonomics emerged when machines exceeded humans' physical capabilities. And we are approaching a similar moment today where the AI age will require cognitive ergonomics. Cognitive ergonomics may emerge and should emerge because machines begin exceeding cognitive capability. Not because human intelligence is becoming less valuable, but because it is becoming more valuable. And as our tools become more capable, the responsibility to protect human mind becomes even greater. Therefore, the core challenge of AI is not managing artificial intelligence or how we are going to adapt artificial intelligence. The challenge of AI age is managing human intelligence, ensuring that is not replaced by the tool, but amplified through it. Because let's accept it, our brains are still operating on the same biological operating system they always have. Yet, our tools becoming exponentially more powerful.
Elif, it was so thought provoking. And as you were saying, that yes, now the technology is there, new operating system, everything is moving fast. But our biological operating system, it's still working at the same pace. And now with AI,
Absolutely.
we want to do things faster, but we forget that sometimes we just have to pause and understand why even we are running for that one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
And I love
you.
the equation which you made, that workload, cognitive load, and cognitive energy. It's beautiful actually, because when we think about cognitive load and cognitive energy, it looks the same thing, but the way you explain, now I understand it little bit extra, little bit more. But yes, they are the different things, not the same one. And I love this one when you mentioned the AI increases generative, but the capacity, the cognitive capacity is reducing because we are so much dependent on that. When
Absolutely.
when I was studying higher mathematics, I remember like doing mathematics not only solves the problem, but it builds a problem solving muscle, which I think with AI we are losing it, because even to do a simple percentage or calculate something, we just give it to AI, we get it. So the problem solving muscle is also reducing somewhere.
Absolutely. We need to be careful about what we are offloading to AI.
That's right. Thank you so much. It was beautiful discussion. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thanks for the opportunity.
And so we have still now spoken about the AI, we have spoken about the well-being part of it. We started with the discussion with why, and then we started with the discussion with 8 pillars of well-being and what are the different aspects of it, and then we have spoken about the AI. So let's go a little deeper and smaller. When I say smaller, we are talking about microbes, and that's where our the next speaker is there. But before that, I want to tell you something fascinating in study. Studies show that even a mild dehydration, as little as 1 to 2%, which is like really small, can reduce cognitive performance by up to 10%. And in a country where the temperature could exceed constantly 40 degrees Celsius, yes, that is a performance emergency for organization. So if your employees are not drinking enough water, yes, that could impact their KPI and the business performance. And the best part is that when we go back in time and see that when we were young and mom used to give curd before we go out, that one spoon of curd could save our life and our job and our performance at the business. So I'll not talk much about it because our next speaker is an expert. She brings entirely different perspective. She's someone who connects the past, present, and future together. So let me introduce you to Dr. Tejas Sameer. She's an integrative Ayurvedic physician, fermentista. Every time I say this word, I'm like tongue twister for me. Fermentista, microbe science expert whose work bridges the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda and research on the gut brain health. That's why I said she brings present, past, and future together. She creates evidence-based well-being program for corporate teams, VIP groups, families across UAE internationally as well, translating complex science into simple daily practices that fit real modern life. We all are busy, and she is the one person who can help us to be healthy, perform good at work. So, bringing all the knowledge from past and future together. She's the founder of Cultured Food Universe and serves as the Global Wellness Day ambassador for the UAE. And she's on the mission to build bio-resilient workplace from inside out. So it's not the inside out movie of brain, but it's what the guts it is. Today she is talking about hydrate to perform, seasonal strategies for sharper work days, something you would have never heard about. So please pay attention, make notes with this one. So let's welcome Dr. Tejas. Let me add her to screen and make all notes. Why I'm saying this, because she is going to share some strategies which will change your life, your team's life, and your family's life. Thank you so much, Dr. Tejas, for joining us today.
Morning, Neetu. Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, I've learned so much from the previous presentations as well. So, thank you so much for curating this platform and bringing together some amazing speakers which have so much to add from so many perspectives. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. So Neetu has already given a introduction about me. So what I would like to show you today is how performance is so very linked to hydration. How your hydration turns from a wellness portfolio to a performance strategy. So before we talk solutions, let's just look at these numbers for a minute. In 2022 alone, and these are numbers for UAE, we saw 18.2 billion potential income lost to heat, 1.5 billion labor hours lost, with most of this being construction workers. Almost 70% of those losses were by construction workers. This should really get our attention because neither the UAE nor the world is getting any cooler. We are building bigger, we are moving faster, and working longer in a climate that pushes directly against human performance. Heat is already costing us, visibly and invisibly. The ILO projects that by 2030, heat stress could cost the global economy almost $2.4 trillion a year. That's equivalent to 80 million full time jobs. We usually picture that loss outdoors, whether it's construction workers, logistics people, field teams. But actually, there is a quieter indoor cost that is with us too. Lower focus, more fatigue, slower reaction, more errors. Outside heat shows up in incident reports. Inside, it shows up as brain fog, missed details, poor decisions, and teams that mentally clock out literally by mid afternoon. In a way, both are expensive, and clinically, both are very much preventable. Summer in the UAE is not really a season, is it? It's pretty much a stress test. And so the question we have to start asking today is not, are my people okay? But something more precise than that. Are my people performing or are they not simply because they are dehydrated? These two things are not always the same. Before we go any further, I would just like to take a few seconds of your time. Please do scan the QR code. Just one question. I would like to ask you personally, on a normal working day, how much fluid do you think you drink? And this includes all the fluids, okay? So it's not just water, but even your teas, coffees, herbal teas, or whatever you might have through really juicy fruits like watermelon or cucumber. Can you take a quick minute? Nobody is watching, except probably your liver, but we'll let the liver talk to you. So people still seem to be in the 1 to 2 liter range somehow. That means that pretty much everybody is underhydrated. And that happens even before lunch. There is no drama, no judgment, but this is exactly why this conversation really matters. So here's the science. Neetu actually alluded to the numbers even before we began, so this is going to be a bit of a reiteration from that side. But it's better to actually reinforce these big numbers. A major meta-analysis found that dehydration impairs cognitive performance, especially attention, executive function, motor coordination, particularly when your water body hits a deficit of 2%. And in a body that's almost 70 kilos, that looks just like a liter and a half. But bear in mind that you are actually losing about that much amount just when you're sleeping in AC because of your respiration, through your skin, through your metabolic processes. So, pretty much when you wake up, you are in a slightly dehydrated state. Now, imagine carrying that on to work. Compound it when you are having coffees first thing in the morning when you reach. This is going to look like slower thinking, poorer attention, more errors, and less mental sharpness. And the critical point to the leaders is this: the decline begins before people necessarily respond to it. So, hydration is not just a personal habit issue, it becomes a performance condition. It is time to reframe the question. The age old question, are you drinking enough water, is not going to cut it anymore. It now begins to have a better framing. This becomes a self care question. Are we designing a culture that supports cooling, fluid balance, and thus steady performance? This becomes a systems question. It starts belonging in HR, in facilities, in operations, and in senior leadership. And that shift from self care to systems within the organization in itself is actually where the real change begins. Let's bring in Ayurveda here. Thank you, Neetu, for introducing me. I am an integrative Ayurvedician. A lot of people think Ayurveda is the ancient wisdom that was given to us. Actually, Ayurveda is the ancient science of life that was handed to us 5,000 years ago and is so very practical and adaptable even today, every single moment of our life. And I'll show you how. Ayurveda is a system of life that talks about prevention before cure. And one of the basic principles it follows is seasonal conduct, Rutucharya in Sanskrit. We are going to see how this applies very, very simply when it comes to workforce. The simple idea, according to Ayurveda, is that body needs different inputs in different seasons. Summer requires cooling, replenishing, and protecting the energy. So, what makes this useful in corporate life is that many of these traditional practices now align closely what occupational and performance sciences are evidencing as well. So, we're going to talk about 5 simple, practical rituals that you can apply. The first one is to mineralize, not just hydrate. There is a difference between having just plain water and truly hydrating. When water enters the system, minerals, also commonly called as electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, help the body to retain and use that fluid effectively. In a desert climate, plain water alone is, of course, not going to be enough. You can drink plenty and still feel very flat if you lose all of that in sweat. And don't replace that. So the workplace question becomes, how do we make this electrolyte or mineral support easy, visible, and very normal? Make it very, very practical. Mineral stations that are up leveled with infused water or have solace. So, this is a solace solution, which is a very ancient, traditional, saturated salt solutions that even our ancestors used to create. All you need to have is a bottle of water or a jar of water and saturate it with salt. Keep adding salt and keep dissolving it till the point that it can't dissolve anymore. That's your saturated solution. And then all you need to do on an individual level is to have a teaspoon of this in a glass of water, or perhaps even better, in a glass of coconut water to ensure that you are topped up with all the electrolytes that you need for the day. And so then you can definitely apply that even in your workforce. Make it simple, make it visible, make it social. I often say hydrate before Wi Fi. So you can even gamify this thing. Run a program. In fact, I know this can work in the real world because I have seen it happen. Under the guidance of a visionary well-being leader from the senior management at one of the major energy sector organizations, we helped bring this summer hydration campaign to life. Roughly 7,000 frontline staff received this infused water 24/7 across 5 months. The response was so strong that the campaign is now in year two, and the expansion of interest is very, very loud and clear from additional teams and sites. Let me ask you one more question. I'm going to ask you to whip up your phones again, 30 seconds. At your workplace, what do you think is the real block to hydration? Do you think it is because we forget it? Do you think that there are so many meetings back to back, or just because plain Jane water is really boring? Or do you think that there is lack of access? The solution becomes much more easier thus to design. I'm going to give you a few seconds more. Yeah, I can see a few responses saying actually having plain water is boring. And so it just means that having infused water with the right kind of inf- um, herbs or botanicals actually will not just make a taste difference, but even up level your hydration. We will talk about that in a minute. The second one is about cooling probiotic drinks. Ayurveda has long used summer drinks. So we all know of takra, which is like a really thin spiced buttermilk, which is used to cool, hydrate, and support digestion. I advocate the milk cafe, which has got almost 50 to 100 probiotic strains that make it even more potent for these purposes. So rather than having a glass of buttermilk, you can have a little shot of the milk kefir and have similar benefits. So, in modern terms, this matters because the gut brain axis affects how people think, how they function, how much energy they have in the afternoon, how much inflammation overall resides in their body, and the clarity with which they end their day. So, cooling fermented drinks can help protect the second half of the workday. Again, we have seen that very much in action in the same organization where we prepared traditional, authentic milk kefir and it became part of the same hydration campaign that I was mentioning about earlier. And we served more than 27,000 servings. The demand was very strong, and the feedback was very strong because it improved not just the bloating and digestion, but it actually had a psychobiotic effect, which meant that it calmed the people who have it and gave them better sleep and reduced their anxiety and panic attacks. This program is also now continuing in year two. The third one is the one with vetiver. So some of you might recognize these dry roots. They are actually roots of a grass and they smell as if it has rained on earth. Imagine smelling that when you enter the workforce, or imagine having your cells hydrate with water infused with this, like I was mentioning earlier. It works on both levels, environmental and nervous. It creates a sense of cool, calm, and grounding, which is really valuable in overstimulated places. And how do you make it real? Again, very, very simple. Have vetiver infused water at hydration stations, or if you have a low stimulation or cool down corner, you can have a diffuser with vetiver essential oil diffusing in the background. Rituals 4 and 5 are more from the outside. I love to focus from inside out, like Neetu was mentioning, but there are two very simple things that we can do from the outside as well. They address the body for heat with the dress and protect the senses. So, breathable fabrics, lighter colors, looser cuts, these are not cosmetic. In Ayurveda, they actually reduce the thermal burden. So, even 5,000 years ago, these have been advocated very strongly. Modern times, the bright screens, harsh lights, noise, poor sleep, chronic overstimulation, all of these things which keep the nervous system overclocked, all these that affect recovery and resilience more than anything else need to be really looked at. So let's make this real. In frontline teams, becomes a procurement decision. Have summer appropriate fabrics, lighter colors, more breathable uniforms. For office teams, it becomes a recovery decision. Better wind down habits, lesser sensory overload, and treating sleep as performance infrastructure too. I mean, an athlete who does not recover simply breaks down. So, why will a knowledge worker who doesn't recover not make worse decisions? The biology is simply same. So, how can you make this real? The translation into action is very, very simple. If the budget is tight, start small. Visible hydration cues, like have hydrating stations right where people can see it. Share your habits. Leaders to actually model this behavior. In the morning, a hydrate before Wi Fi camping. Try it, it really works. If you have budget, then scale it up. Have hydration stations around the place. Have seasonal drinks that you can include. Have cooling protocols built in. Suitable workwear for the staff that is outdoors, especially. Rest cycles, better signages, different budgets that lead to the same destination. You are redesigning by culture. So, one final poll. Of all of these 5 rituals that we talked about, infused water to enhance your mineralization, either including the fermented drinks, cooling with botanicals like vetiver, breathable fabrics, or screen and sleep hygiene. Which one of this would you actually start off with? Make it simple. One thing, one step at a time. Oh, it's very interesting. I can see some choosing for vetiver, some choosing for mineralized water. Very simple tricks, right? There are a few for milk kefir as well. There is no right or wrong answer. The thing is, whatever suits for your circumstances at this time will be the one that works the most. Thank you. So, if heat is expensive, and it is, as we have seen, not just in the UAE but even globally, then hydration becomes strategic. Not hydrating as a stack of, we're not talking of hydrating as a stack of disposable plastic bottles in a corner. We are talking of hydration as an architecture, as a ritual, as a cultural signal. We are talking of cooler bodies, clearer minds, and healthier workplaces. Hydration is not a perk, it is a performance infrastructure. People, thank you so much for joining today. I am very grateful. If you would like to continue any of these conversations, find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. I would love to continue and hear how you included hydration as a performance strategy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tejas. It was brilliant discussion. And you know what I loved is that vetiver, I did not know about it. I have seen it in some places, and I thought it's more for hair rather than hydration. I thought only
So
we can
in
make hair with that.
No, in India, vetiver is called khas. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm sure, like, in northern India, you have seen curtains made of this. Even
yeah.
now, it's still available, or it's at the back of a air cooling system. And the reason is it's because it has very scientific properties that help your nervous system down regulate because of the aromas and the botanical phytones that it releases.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I did not know about that we can use it for drinking as well. I thought it's only for curtain and for fragrance and all. So that's something new I have learned today. And I simply love when you said if heat is expensive, hydration is strategic. Like, this is so profound. We never think in those lines actually. And one thing I saw that whenever I wake up in morning, my mouth feels very dry. So now I know the reason. AC is actually doing that.
Absolutely. You're losing almost a liter to a liter and a half just by sleeping and breathing and your metabolic function. So, honestly, having the Sole, which is like saturated salt solution, all you need is one little teaspoon in a glass of coconut water, ideally, and you're sorted for the day. The curd, which you mentioned at the beginning, how
Yeah.
our elders always set us off on a journey with a teaspoon of curd. It's the same philosophy. It is hydration, it is calming your gut brain axis so that you're very cool, calm, composed during your travel.
That's right. And sometimes we got used to so very complex solutions, like Elif mentioned, that the cognitive load and the cognitive energy. We want everything to be complex. And when somebody simplifies it so easily, then we start doubting, will it work or not? But actually, the simple is something which always works. Like you mentioned, that just drink water. One spoon of that curd can save 10% of performance, and companies can improve their financial performance as well. We don't think on those lines.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And now we move to our next discussion. So we have spoken. Nadia helped us to understand that what is the sandwich generation and why we have to come together to solve this thing. And companies have to become more life friendly rather than just parent friendly. And then Dr. Leila highlighted us with the 8 pillars. And what I loved is the statistics that loneliness increases the mortality by 26%. So that's a big number. Elif helped us with the AI concept and productivity KPI. And Dr. Tejas helped us from inside out journey. So now we have very special speaker who's going to connect all the threads which we have learned till now. And let me share her introduction. But before that, I want to ask you something. One of the research I was going through, and I found that the employees who feel their company cares about their well-being are 69% less likely to actively search for jobs. So all tenant acquisition leaders, please pay attention. If the company is taking care of employees, 69% job search will be less. But the paradox is, yet only 1 out of the 4 employees globally feel that companies genuinely care about them. So we have research which shows it's important, and we have data which shows it's not happening. And our next speaker, Pooja Vashisht Joshi, is going to help us to understand how to bridge the gap. She is a well-known person in HR fraternity. She has done a lot of work, and she's a strong believer that HR is not just a department. It's a heartbeat of any organization. Organization cannot survive without that one. She's a senior HR business partner, people first strategist who has dedicated her career to building workplace where employees don't just perform, they belong, which most of the organizations are missing right now. She builds people centric yet business driven framework that creates meaningful career path, robust succession pipeline, and culture where well being is not a perk. It is the foundation. It becomes like the everyday activity. When the good culture is there, well being is there. So let's welcome Pooja Vashisht Joshi, and she's doing brilliant work. I'm a big fan of her work. So let's hear from her.
Good morning. Thank you, Neetu. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Pooja Vashisht Joshi, and I work as a senior HR business partner. Like Neetu very rightly said, I see HR as the heart of the business. It's not just policies and procedures, but it is how people feel, grow, and connect within the organization. Over the years, I have seen companies investing in processes, in technology, in innovation, automation. But the true differentiator in any company or any organization is how your leaders make the employee feel. If the employees feel valued, if they feel safe, if they feel happy, the employees are definitely going to stay. The employees will forget on how much did you invest in automation or how much did you invest in some AI tool, but they will always remember how the leaders made them feel. And that is what we're going to explore today, that why is empathy an essential skill for leadership. Moving on to my next slide. So before we get into exploring this, I would like to share a quick story with all of you, a story of a genie and the manager. So once there was this manager and a sales representative and an administration executive that decided to go for lunch walking. While they were walking on the way, they found a lamp, an oil lamp, and out of curiosity, as we all are, they rubbed this lamp, and then, woof, came the genie. So the genie said, I'm going to grant each one of you a single wish so you could ask. So the sales representative got very excited and he said, okay, I'll be the first one to go. And he says, I wish to be sunbathing at a beach in Hawaii. So the genie says, your wish is my command. It blinks and poof, the sales representative disappears. Next comes the administration executive and he says, okay, I go next. And my wish is to be on a private speedboat to Bahamas. And the genie says, your wish is my command. It blinks and the administrative assistant disappears. Next, the genie looks at the manager and says, okay, you're up next. What is it that you want? So the manager smiles at the genie and says, my wish is that these two come back to work after the lunch break. The reason I'm sharing this story is it definitely brings a quick smile on all of our face. And for some of us, it might be a very familiar smile because at some point in life or in some point in our career, we have faced such leaderships that are authoritative, controlling, and get back to work kind of. So before I move on to next, I would just want you to think and tell me that what would you, if you were the manager, what would you have wished for from the genie? And I would also like to share the moral of the story that let your managers wish first, you go next. Okay, so moving on further with the presentation, empathy is something that is much more deeper of an understanding. It is not, earlier the managers used to focus on outcome, on results, on deliverables, but empathy is how being leaders can we give that environment to our teams, to our people, so that they are able to deliver. That takes me to the next slide of the leadership imperatives. What are the four main essential requirements for leadership? First and foremost, empathy. Second, wellness, psychological safety, and high performance. While I say them as four, we need to understand that all of these are interlinked, and these are ones that lead to a high performance team and a better business output. So when we talk about empathy, empathetic leadership is something where the manager understands, manager listens, the leader listens to you, and the leader then reacts or then responds to it. Not just assuming or not just blaming. So when you are a good leader who's empathetic, you build the foundation for a sustainable performance. You build stronger accountability. You are able to build much more trust within the team, higher alignment within the team. Going further, wellness and psychological safety are not separate from performance. They are the things that allow the the performance to happen. Because when a person is psychologically safe, when we say psychological safe, it is the person is able to speak freely, the employee is able to ask, is able to share without any fear. That is when we build a psychological safety environment within the team. Wellness is when the employee is mentally well, they don't feel stressed, they are relaxed, and they're able to perform and give the best. It's not just about their physical well-being, but also about their mental well-being. And when all these parameters are met, that is when we are able to get the high performance team. Now, stress is something that's very invisible. It is something that we are not able to see. So, just moving on to the next slide, I would like to, the reason I share this picture is it's a very simple picture, right? It's a person standing with their arms stretched out and holding a bottle of water. All I want you to do is imagine yourself with your arms stretched out at full, and then you place a water of bottle on your arm. You are on your palm, sorry. For a certain time, you are able to hold it, right? You can. For a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it goes well. But what happens after an hour? Your arm starts to pain, your hand starts to pain. What if you hold the same way for the day, complete throughout the day? That is when your hands start feeling numb. You feel paralyzed, right? We have to bear in mind that at any point of time, the weight of the bottle did not change. The water did not change. It is the same weight, but still, after a certain period of time, it starts feeling heavier. That is exactly how stress works. It's not visible. We cannot see it, but it is there. Many of our employees feel some invisible burden or invisible weight with them. It can be tight deadlines. It can be pressure to perform. It can be financial concerns. It can be family relations, anything. As a leader, what our role is that we ensure that we don't want to take this bottle out, but we ensure that we are there to support them. We are there to listen to them. As leaders, we are not here always to provide solutions, but we are there to tell our people that if you need something, it is, I'm there for you. It is when I am holding this bottle. If your hand is paining, I feel your pain. Tell me how I can help you. Tell me how I can support you. This is what is empathy about, and this is how our leaders move with empathetic behavior or empathy towards the employees. But this is not all, like, we have heard Dr. Tejas, we have heard Aleph, everybody speaking about well-being and numbers. Nadia was talking about people well-being as well. So this is not just what we are saying, this is what the numbers show. The numbers show that 89% of the employees say psychological safety as an essential. So it's no longer a wish list. It is something that the employees, it's foundational. It is something that the employees need to thrive within the organization. It is something that the employees it's necessary for them to show their highest potential. They need to feel psychologically safe. A consulting firm in Boston has also shown that when you have a high safety environment, the probability of people staying within the organization, retaining your talent, is 4 times higher as compared to a low safety environment. That means if we are able to build that psychological safety around the team, within the team, we have the people retaining with us, we have the talent that retain with us, and then we are able to go further and grow as an organization. But this is all about the people. Now let's talk about the leaders. 70% of the variance in engagement score is because of the managers. The managers are responsible for engaging. The leaders are responsible for keeping their teams engaged. How do you keep them engaged? So very simple is, for example, you have 2 teams, Team A and Team B. Team A, both of these teams have same pay scale, same work conditions, same policies, but Team A is being led by a manager who's empathetic and efficient, whereas team B is being led by a manager or has an environment that's a low safety risk, a low psychological safety. So, in that case, which team do you think would be performing better? It is team A because the manager or the leader is showing them empathy. It is showing, it's creating, the leader is creating the environment of psychological safety, which gives the team the sense of feeling safer, sense of belongingness, sense of support that they need to perform. These are the results that have come out from different reports. Now, when we talk about why is this so much connected to the human nature, so this goes back to the very initial or a very familiar framework of Maslow's hierarchy. Now, in the Maslow's hierarchy, you can see that any person has the sense of belonging, has esteem and self-actualization only once their basic needs are met. And the basic needs are not just physiological, but also safety. When we talk about safety, it's not just the physical safety, but also the psychological safety. That is when the workplace, that is when we talk about the workplace, where we need to create this psychological safety culture wherein it is absence of interpersonal fear. It is a basic need that employees need to survive. As leaders, you can be empathetic by telling them, not being judging, just asking them, being concerned, being thoughtful, and without being judgmental, showing empathy to them as like you genuinely concerned. Now, if I give you an example of two managers or two leaders, leader A and leader B, all I want you to do is, if you can, tell me which one would you be safe talking to. So if you feel you would be safe talking to manager A, give me a thumbs up. And if you feel you'd be safe or you'll be happy speaking to manager B, you need to drop a heart. Okay? So drop a heart if it's manager B and drop a thumbs up if it's manager A. Right. Okay. So B, heart. I see heart. So manager B is the manager that we all would like to work with. It is because we see the smile on that person's face. We see how comfortable this person is walking. These are the emotions. These are the emotions that the employee shows when you have an empathetic leader. As a leader, it is essential for you to ensure that your people are able to speak openly with you, communicate openly with you. But as leaders, what is that you can do effective today? It is a very simple framework that's called the CARE framework. CARE stands for connect. Connect with your people, genuinely show interest, be transparent, openly communicate with them, connect with them, show that you are concerned, build that relationship with them. Once you have connected, acknowledge what they are doing, acknowledge that yes, I see the efforts that you're putting in, I acknowledge that you're feeling stressed. What can I do for you? How can I support you? Acknowledge that they are putting in the effort and then respond with empathy, respond people with genuine interest, respond to them without being judgmental, show that you are concerned. And once you have C, A, and R, connect, acknowledge, and respond in place, you empower your team. You empower them to speak openly. You empower them to perform. You empower them. You encourage them to contribute. This is the CARE framework. And towards the end, I would like to say that people who feel valued, the people who feel safe, are the ones that thrive to make a better team, a better organization. And the leadership, the real reflection of leadership is when or what do the people working with you become as managers? or how do these managers turn out to be? When, as leaders, it is not that we just want to deliver results, but we want to bring that change. We want to show, we want to develop, we want to create a model that emphasizes on empathy and what we are making possible within the teams. So I would leave with this note, and I'd really like to thank you everybody for your participation and being so attentive throughout the session. Thank you for your inputs and feedback. And Neetu, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Pooja. It was brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And we have a question from Harun Ali Khan. He's
Okay.
asking that hiring of leaders are referral basis rather than selective these days. So in this scenario, how bosses can they can provide safety and concern.
How, sorry, who can provide?
Hiring is nowadays more a referral based rather than the selection process, proper selection process. So
Yeah.
how bosses can provide the safety and concern, like it's a big concern.
So, okay, when these things happen, when you have a team that, or when you have hired somebody in your team, that is when you are, it is not something that is developed in an instant. When you keep talking to people, you start opening up with them. When you start talking to them, that is when you are able to build that relationship. You cannot build it over time. It's overnight. It is not going to happen that today I have hired and I'm able to bring.
Hmm.
You have to put that effort equally as a leader. So if you feel that somebody has come through a referral, or like, their leaders are selected through referral, how do you take that initiative, or how do you go and speak to the leaders or speak to your team in that matter as a leader, that you take that step forward? Maybe they are hesitant, they would not feel safe. What efforts as leader are you putting in to make that climate? So like I said, just it has to be something that has to be done on weekly basis. Go and talk to your manager, talk to your teams, talk to your groups, and tell them that, okay, what is going on? Instead of, like I said, when the bottle was in the hand, instead of work stronger, instead, if you say, I see that you are in pain, how can you do, what are the things, instead of saying that, oh, what happened, you missed the deadline, instead of that, you say, okay, I understand, I know you have been going through something, what is it that we can do, what are your suggestions? So when you create those environment around within the team, that is how you're able to break that ice and connect with your people, so as to get better results and better outputs. I hope, I don't know, Harun, I hope I've really answered your question. If not, I'll be happy to connect with you separately.
Thank you so much, Pooja. And there is another question has come, so we'll quickly take this one. How do we as a manager respond to the most important question for employees when the pay comes into picture? So it's more about the salary and money.
Okay.
And as a manager, this is very Sudit Sharma's question. This is one. If you can
Okay.
briefly answer.
Okay, so he's saying, as honestly, managers are just people representatives of management. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sudhir, thank you for your question, but I think the research these days shows something very different. Like we said, 89% of the people, the reports show that 89% of people are looking for psychological safety, while salary, while pay definitely matters. But what are you actually being able to work? Okay, I had given example of two managers, manager A and manager B. Imagine you are getting 10 times more salary working with manager A, while you get 1/5 of the salary while working with manager B. But where would you think you would be efficiently able to perform, or where would you be able to efficiently deliver? That is how. So pay does matter, but at the same time, employee safety, with the psychological safety that we have, that is when we are able to deliver 100%, and we are able to contribute to the organization, do justice, and stay connected with the organization. If not, just imagine the people, if they are not feeling psychological safe. We have seen researches that people leave organization not because of money, but it's mostly because of the leaders or the managers on the work environment that they're working with. That is one of the main reasons that is causing retention. You saw that even in low safety environment, the chances of people leaving are 4%, 4 times higher than a safe working environment. So while money matters, so does the psychological safety.
Brilliantly answered. Lovely. And I agree with Dr. Tejas here that the care framework is beautiful, so easy to remember: connect, acknowledge, respond, and empower. I think we all jump to empower, but before connection, how that empowerment will be done? That's there. So thank you so much. Okay, one more question. This is the last question we will take, because after this, we have a beautiful panel discussion. Any tips for middle level management for getting their work acknowledged in such tough competition? Kritika Chaturvedi.
So, Kritika, I would like to understand from you, when you are asking this question, any tips for middle level managers for getting their work acknowledged in such tough competitions? Are you talking about getting that work acknowledged from their managers, or are you talking about getting their work acknowledged from their teams? Because both of them are very different things. So to get your work acknowledged from your team, or to get appreciation from your respective teams, you need, like I said, to be or follow that care framework. You need to be in that care framework. You need to show care to them, connect with them, acknowledge, respond, empower them. That is when you are going to, that is when you are going to be, that is when they're going to acknowledge what efforts you have put in. But when you are talking about the leadership at your top from your seniors, okay, thank you for answering that. So when you're talking about recognizing the middle levels get recognized, so your results, Kritika, are what your team has performed as a manager. So if your team is performing well, you see that you as a leader, your leaders or your managers see that you as a leader have put in that effort to get those deliverables done. And that is how it comes. So they are all interconnected. They are all together. So when your team is performing, you are performing. When you are performing, you're being appreciated by your line managers or your seniors.
Thank you so much, Pooja. Thanks a lot. And it was really eye opening and everyone loved it. Thank you, Ujjwala Kote, for your comment. It's beautiful. And now we move to Pooja is not going anywhere. Stay with us because she's coming back for panel discussion. So we are not letting her go so easily. Yes. So now we have something very special, which I love the most, is that we are bringing all brilliant minds together to discuss workplace well-being panel discussion. Yes, we are going to have that. So all speakers since morning who have spoken today, they'll be coming together. And I want to tell you something interesting. A 2025 McKinsey report found that organizations with strong well-being culture are 4 times more likely to attract top talent. Not only that, 2.2 times more likely to exceed financial targets. So, as Dr. Leila, as Nadia, and Elif, and Dr. Tejas, and Pooja have mentioned, that this is not something soft and like non tangible. Actually, it is having a tangible impact. So, well being is no more soft, it's a competitive edge for any business. So, whether you are an HR leader, business leader, finance professional, or a professional, senior professional who wants to grow, this panel discussion is for you. Panel discussion is moderated by Dr. Leila Kazim. Joining the panelists are Dr. Tejas, Dr. Elif. See, Elif, I think be ready because every time Dr. Elif is coming to my mind whenever I take your name. So be ready for PhD. Elif Kargos and Pooja Vashish Joshi joining us for that. So thank you so much. Let me add our panelists to the stage. Pooja, there is some voice distortion from your end. If you can check your audio quickly so people can hear you very clearly. Dr. Leila, stage is yours now.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had a very insightful, uh, learning session from different experts from different organizations. I am happy to moderate the panel discussion. So I'm going to, before I prompt any questions your end, I'm going to state some more facts. So we often hear that well-being and performance discussed as though they are competing priorities. Now, already what Neetu has mentioned earlier, that globally only 20% of employees are engaged at work, and that estimates roughly around 10 trillion US dollars in lost productivity annually. The WHO estimates 1 trillion annually in lost productivity, with 12 billion working days lost over every single year due to depression, anxiety, costs. These are costing the global economy around the world. Gallup research shows that organizations with highly engaged teams experience 78% less absenteeism, 51% lower turnover, 14% higher productivity, and 23% higher profitability. These are compared with their peers. These statistics, they suggest that well-being is no longer simply a people initiative. It is increasingly a leadership, culture, and business performance priority. So perhaps here, what the question would be is not whether well-being matters, but how organizations can create that condition where people can perform at their best, remain resilient through change, and continue to thrive over the long term. So if our audience is listening in today, I'd like you all to think about one question. And that question is, what is the single most important thing organizations should do differently to improve the well-being and performance at work? And if time permits, we will come back to some of your thoughts at the end. I have now an opening question to all my panelists. So when you think about workplace well-being today, what is the one shift organizations need to make better to support both people and performance? Let us start with Dr. Tejas.
Thank you, Dr. Leila. And I have to say thank you very much for the lovely presentation earlier as well, and for framing why we need all of the well-being related issues. So if there's one shift that I would ask the organizations to think of, it would be for thinking of wellness as events to actually enforcing well-being as an operating system. I mean, so many times, even now, we see organizations just doing a yoga day or a sound healing session or having, a bowl of fruits in the pantry, but it extends way beyond that. Studies show that when organizations actually support systemically support things like recovery, sleep, nutrition, they see a lot fewer sick days and a lot more measurable productivity gains. The numbers you were mentioning are very evident of that as well. So sometimes even just a 1 to 2% shift from a better improved nutrition program might sound like a very small number, but across large workforces, it makes a big difference. So definitely a shift from being a one-time event to becoming the norm in the operating system.
Thank you for that response. Maybe Pooja can give her response regarding that. So what do you think one shift organizations could do to better support their people and performance?
So, when I think about workplace well-being today, the one shift that organizations need to make is moving from, like Dr. Tejas said, and moving from everyday leadership behaviors and offer them something that's beyond the benefits, just wellness programs. Offering them is important, but what we need is them to recognize the conversations with managers, how the workload is assigned, and when today employees are carrying that invisible weight of stress from work life and uncertainty, that the policies cannot just solve it. It gets eased by empathy in action. So when leaders take a moment to notice, to ask, to listen, that is when they create the psychological safety, and that is when people feel safe. And that is one change that I really think that the organizations need to do. Like, instead of do you have well-being program or do we have well-being programs, we are to ask, are our leaders creating the well-being moments every day? Are our people happy? Are our people at safe workplace? And when that is there, when there is both well-being and performance, that is when the organization comes together and performs better.
That sounds great. Elif, do you have anything to share? Any different perspectives? What shift you could advise organizations to do?
Thank you. And first, I would like to share my clove infused water. That is my shift takeaway from this session, thanks to Dr. Tejas. And the biggest shift I would like organizations to make is um, moving beyond simply helping people cope with work and starting to rethink the work itself. Because for decades, most well-being initiatives, what we are discussing now, have focused on an important question. Like, how do we help people stay healthy, resilient, and productive despite the workload? And that has given us many valuable practices, as we have discussed today, around work life balance, empathy, physical well being, mental health, feeling secure, flexibility. But the underlying assumption was usually that the workload itself was largely fixed and there isn't much to do about it. And we're just giving tools and solutions for people to find a way around it. But AI gives us an opportunity to challenge that assumption. For the first time, we have a technology with the potential to meaningfully reduce parts of the workload itself, not just help people, find workarounds it to bear that workload. So I want organizations really to start to rethink the design of work itself with AI as a fundamental dimension of workplace well-being.
Interesting perspective, and I also think so too. They have to
Happy to
use the
hear.
technology to help them to understand and to design better working environments. That is very correct. Okay, so let us dive now into health and human side of performance. I'm going to prompt this question to Dr. Tejas. So many organizations still approach well-being through isolated initiatives and awareness campaigns, while at the same time underestimating how factors like sleep, nutrition, recovery all influence performance. From your healthcare perspective, what distinguishes organizations that successfully embed well-being into their culture, and how do these physiological factors transition into resilience, focus, and productivity at work?
Thank you, Dr. Lela. That's a very, that's quite a deep dive question, like you said. So I'm going to break it up into two parts. First would be, what would be the organization that actually successfully uh, can embed well-being into their culture? What does that organization looks like? And it's essentially, again, what both Elif and Pooja and even you validated while we were talking earlier. It is when the shift happens from being on a poster or a tick mark event that happens as a one-off to actually getting wired within the system itself. So it's not, it becomes like a protocol, not just a perk. They frame systems around the biology, the physiology of the people. So in terms of embodying it, the leaders actually embodying it, it would be looking like fewer late night emails, some control over the shift patterns, and when the need arises, support to have the right kind of support for the staff who are doing multiple shifts back to back when there is a need to do so. When there is real, wholesome, nourishing food in the canteen, and we've seen that happen, access to natural light in organizations, something that is very, very underestimated but has such a huge impact on the overall well-being of people. Protected breaks for both the office staff as well as the shop floor staff. So if a plant manager or if a VP actually in the leadership says, I am not going to respond to non-urgent emails after, say, 9 o'clock, or if he's going to be seen taking a lunch break away from his desk, that signals, like both Elif and Pooja were saying, that it is actually safe for the other people to do so as well. It is okay to take care of yourself for a few minutes to fill up your cup so that you can fill the cup for the organization. And you asked about a few of the other biomarkers in my language, the very specific ones that actually make the biggest impact. Things like sleep, things like nutrition, things like recovery. So these micro breaks should become like the regular MOTs that we have literally on every 3 to 4 hourly basis. We are not going to imagine a machine running 24/7 without lubrication, without cooling, without maintenance, right? So, is there any surprise if we are treating human beings to be that way and then they break down? We are adding, like Elif mentioned, 10 presentations to the day where you are expecting it to be churned out, and yet you don't have the cognitive capacity or the cognitive energy to manage it. So, a very, very underestimated or underrated thing is a microbake. Nutrition, right? We've seen so many organizations in the name of saying, oh, I provide a healthy breakfast, all you're providing is chai and biscuits. And how are you actually going to have output, productive output from these people? But just a slight shift. If you're going to give hummus and carrot sticks, or if you're going to give a boiled egg and a little piece of salad, and then a bottle of Laban along with it, the productivity, and it has been evidenced. Okay, so this is a real case in point. Jumps up by about 3 to 4%. Simple things, simple things. Now, sleep again, right? It is in Ayurveda one of the three pillars of health: ahar, nidra, and brahmacharya. So, your food, your sleep, and your purpose of life. All of these are three melting pots that come together in a workforce. Like Nadia mentioned in her talk earlier, we don't leave our lives behind, we bring them home. So, our sleep deficit, our expectations, and all our responsibilities come along with us. If we have a nurturing environment and if we have well being that is set into the rhythm of the organization, it becomes very natural to protect these three essential pillars of health to support the workforce for higher productivity, higher engagement, and higher retention.
Okay,
Thank you.
yes, I would agree there, definitely. Those are the very important factors to consider. Research actually increasingly links the chronic stress to both physiological and psychological outcomes. And many professionals today describe themselves as constantly busy yet persistently exhausted. What are the early signs should leaders and individuals recognize? And what simple evidence informed habits can help prevent stress from progressing into burnout over time?
Uh, so I think, very often you see people going in two different spectrums. Okay, so normal people who, or rather people whom you normally see and are happy, normally chirpy, can go in two different directions, and that would be like your red flags coming up. They would either be overly chirpy because they've probably had 7 coffees since 7 in the morning to 12 in the afternoon, or they would be completely crashed, they would be completely disengaged, you don't know what's happening, and they are like, oh yeah, like, so everything is like a yes ma'am, and then there is no response to it. So I think those are the things that you would raise for people that you know on a regular basis. For people that you don't know, I don't think anybody is ever going to come and say, how are you? Oh my God, I'm really tired. I don't think we ever have that culture in that organization. So it's coming back to this whole thing of setting that culture in the organization to actually come up and say, can I have 5 minutes before I go to the meeting? And I'm just going to have a quick breath, quick few calm breaths, and come back. What could be the simple habits that could change this trajectory? I think it starts from the night before. It is protecting your sleep, like it is a safety issue. So unless you have the minimum 6 to 7 hours of sleep, I mean, I think it should be a lot more. But in reality, in the way we are over here in today's day and age, I think a minimum of 6 to 7 of quality deep rest is what you're looking at. And again, the leaders have to embody it. Then you're looking at better nourishment and better hydration. So for me, everything comes from within first and then outside. So you have simple hydration programs. I spoke about a few things that is very easily done. It's so easy. Thank you, Elif, already to infuse your water with a pinch of Celtic salt, or have the bottle of Sole ready, or have a short glass of milk kefir instead of your fourth coffee at 4 o'clock. it really helps. Having, instead of huge fruit bowls, which oftentimes just go brown on the counter, perhaps offering cut watermelon, and then you have an enforced break where everybody goes around at 11 in the morning and says, all right, here's your melon break. You're hydrating, you're connecting with people, which also drives through the well-being. Remember, loneliness is the new smoking. You are driving through these very simple methodologies. Micro recovery, again, built very much into the schedule. So no third back-to-back meeting. Could we enforce that as the leadership? I mean, I still remember the days back in the NHS where I barely could manage to go to the ward simply because I had 5 back-to-back meetings, and which also brought about this whole issue that I wasn't hydrating because I knew I wouldn't have a loo break in between. So some realities for female staff, right? So simple, very simple steps that get built in as a normalized protocol for an organization and embodied by leaders, I think make things very easy to enable.
Thank you very much. I can relate a lot, and I think that's why we were all smiling. We can all relate to that, with the number of coffees that we take just to get through the meetings. And this is a question I always ask people generally. Okay, if they come up with a sick leave request for sick leave, I would ask them simple question: what did you do yesterday or the day before that caused you to become sick? Give me that answer first, and then they'll say, I had back-to-back meetings, and then I could say clearly it was over your capacity, which caused you to break down. So your immune system obviously is compromised, you get sick. So I mean, we have viruses around us every single day, and I think to people like, why did you come for sick leave? Like, you could have prevented this, just delegate it to someone else, right? Give someone else that delegation to give you that relief for you to recover. And this is again where Pooja mentioned it comes back to the leaders. If leaders implement this, they are a good example for their employees under them. They care for them. They come and ask, how have you been? If you're exhausted, it doesn't matter if you're coming in a few minutes late. Not to be over judgmental and things like that. So really appreciate that response there. And now leaders, if we could just, I'm just going to ask now Pooja some questions. But before this, I just want to mention that if health creates the foundation, leadership and culture determine what happens every day inside the workplace. So employees today are seeking more than compensation. They're looking for purpose, flexibility, trust, and psychological safety. And how are these changing expectations or reshaping leadership and workplace culture? And how organizations ensure that these investments in employee experience also support business performance?
So, the workplace has undergone a major shift in the last few years. Every employee, most of the employees, right? Even in my day-to-day conversations that I have with new candidates who we are planning to take on board, they are not solely focused on what is the salary or the benefits that the employer is offering. They want to know if they feel valued, if does their work have a meaning here, can they be themselves when they are working. These expectations are fundamentally reshaping the leadership and the workplace culture. Traditionally, we remember, like, the genie story that I shared, where come back to work, that was what they were looking for. They wanted to have something that's just focused on outcomes, or they used to measure direct only towards work. They used to direct employees to work. Now today, the leaders are expected to create an environment where the employees can thrive. It's not just about what are the results they are doing it, but how they're delivering. This means that they have to build that trust. They have to build that fostering psychological safety, communicating the purpose. Why is their role important? Why are they doing whatever they are doing? And support the flexibility while maintaining the accountability. We have to make sure that we are nowhere compromising on results. We are just giving a better environment to the employees by giving them the right culture, the right climate, where they are able to decide that whether they want to stay silent or they want to contribute, whether they want to hide in fear or they trust. Do they want to be disengaged or they want to be committed? So when we give this kind of environment, that is when we bring, this is the culture that the new employees or the people currently are expecting from the employers. And in addition to that, one of the most important changes in the growing is that the recognition and business performances are not competing priorities. They are deeply connected. Researchers show that more the people are engaged, like, I showed that slide on the research done by a Boston firm, that if you have an engaged team, the people would retain and stay back with the company. They would stay in the organization. The chances of retaining these people is 4 times higher than a low risk or a customer, a customer focused environment. So when people feel trusted and connected, that is when they are able to contribute to the purpose of the organization, and they cannot just achieve it with compensation alone. So, for organizations, the challenge is ensuring that the investment that you do in the employees, the experience that they have, is intentional and is aligned with the business objectives. It's not just that you have to do it. Why do you have to do it? What is the purpose of it? For example, flexibility. Flexibility, everybody says that flexibility, it should not be a perk. Everybody takes it as, oh, I have a flexibility, which is not a perk. It is something that enables the employee to deliver. That is the kind of mentality and the leadership that people are looking at. Similarly, well-being initiatives, like Dr. Tejas was just sharing, well-being initiatives should not just be on should not be measured on the rate of participation. Oh, I got 100 feedbacks on the survey that I did. But it should be based on, how are your employees feeling? Are they feeling engaged? What when you talk about that, is when I think AI also comes into picture, that you have the data. What analysis you do with the data, how do you react, how do you work on it, is something that we are trying to build in. And I believe that most successful organizations focus on 3 areas. One is the purpose. Why are we doing what we are doing? Just to ensure that the employees understand the vision and the mission of the company that they are contributing to. The leadership capabilities, equipping our managers, equipping our leaders with skills such as empathy, skills such as coaching, effective communication. It's not always about the outputs. It's also about how comfortable you're able to make your teams feel and how they are able to deliver. And last but not the least, the third one is measurement. Again, do not track the number of responses, but track the retention rate. How many people you were able to retain? How many people are enjoying working with you? How many people are able to perform better than what they were doing? And one of the questions, I think Dr. Tejas or Aleph asked, that if your employees are willing to come back to work for you, do you give that environment to them? So that are the 3 main things: purpose, leadership, and measurement, that the organizations have to take care of, or organizations need to focus. And at the end of the day, where employees feel safe, valued, and heard, that is when the organization creates the environment that do not improve employee experiences, but they create a stronger and more resilient business. So that's what I believe.
Exactly, that causes them to have that thriving environment, and that's what we need in every organization. So our managers are they are one of our greatest influences on the employee experience. What is one
Absolutely.
practical leadership behavior that can immediately improve well-being within a team, and what indicators would you look for to know that this approach is actually making a measurable difference? What's
Right.
that one factor you think? All of us are looking for what is the answer for this. What's the
That
one
was,
thing? Yeah.
sorry.
So just that one thing that everyone can implement immediately within their teams, yeah, and then actually know that this can make a measurable difference to everyone else.
Okay, can you hear me clearly? Because I think I don't know, some issue with my internet. But so the one word, that is the presentation that I gave. The one word is empathy. When we hear people say the word empathy, they often think of, like, being nice, being accommodating. But in reality, empathy is not what we see, but recognizing what we don't. It is in reality understanding that what someone is experiencing and responding appropriately. Like, okay, fine, you have understood, but then you still don't react in the right way. You're not showing empathy. So you have to be empathetic, and being leaders, you have to show that empathy
Tough,
to the
tough
employees.
empathy.
It is a leadership skill that helps, like, the managers to make better decisions, to build trust, and to create stronger teams. A practical way to demonstrate empathy is, it's like, okay, today I feel like talking to you, so I'll go and speak to you. That's not the way. Weekly do the check-ins, weekly speak to your teams, understand if they are okay, if they are game, what's going on, just what's going on, or how are you doing. These are some very simple questions. Even when you ask your teams, what challenges are you facing, or how can I support you, these are the conversations that uncover the issues that become problem at the later stage, due to a workload, whether it's due to lack of clarity. Because when you have that open communication, when you talk to people, you understand what the requirement is. And when, again, like we said, all of us have been saying all throughout the presentations, that when employees feel heard, when they feel, that is when they feel valued, that is when they feel that they're going to be more efficient, they're going to be more effective. Like the Maslow's hierarchy, where you meet their basic needs of psychological safety, that is when they're able to contribute to the bigger picture of the employees. And I would like to, I would look both qualitative and quantitative indicators. So, employee engagement scores are the quantitative indicators, particularly the questions related to, but when it comes to the questions related to trust, well-being, manager support, that is when the quality comes into picture. Retention and voluntary turnovers, that's again the quantity. And absenteeism and sick leave, like Dr. Tejas was saying, and you were talking about, like, why is the employee sick? When you speak to them, when you talk to them, you understand that there is something that's going on in the background, and that is the reason maybe they're not well, or they're not able to perform. The participation, next is the participation in team discussions and willingness to share that idea. So, I have heard that Warren Buffett, when he goes for board meetings, he does not speak. He keeps the floor open and lets his people speak. That is when you generate ideas. That is, so rather than always speaking in meetings, it's always good to keep the sessions open and let everybody speak. Because, like I shared in my presentation, 70% of the variance in employee engagement scores is on the account of managers. So as long as the leaders are able to give that experience to the employees, that is when the organization thrives to grow better, to grow further. And when manager, it's not, like I said, it's not a one-time thing. They have to show empathy regularly and make people demonstrate that. It's not just talking, but you show that genuine care. The care framework, where you show genuine connection, when you genuinely ask people, that is when they feel more engaged and more willing to contribute, to do their best. The result is not only with improved well-being, but of course with this you get a stronger team performance. And my key message to everybody here would be that empathy is no longer a soft skill, it is a business skill. All along it has been, okay, it's a soft skill, you have to be empathetic, but that is now a business skill. That is it is just a simple act of genuinely listening that can have the greatest impact on both people and their performance at the end, contributing to the organization.
I couldn't agree less. This is exactly what people have to understand. It's not what the employees want, it's what they need, and we give them what they need.
How
Thank
they
you very much.
feel. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, Pooja. Okay, so as organizations now, hold on a second. Okay, so where we have left off. Okay, so now we're transitioning, right? So the future of work isn't now only being shaped by people and culture, it's also being shaped by technology. Artificial intelligence is transforming how we work. Do you believe that AI has a potential to enhance employee well-being, or are there risks that may unintentionally contribute to greater pressure, overload, and burnout?
Thanks for the question, because I actually think that the answer is both. And therefore, we really need to be very, very careful about this. But before answering the question, I think it's important to recognize that AI is not affecting all work in the same way. In some cases, AI is reducing physical effort. Autonomous robots, intelligent machines, and automation systems can remove physically demanding or repetitive work for people's daily lives. In other cases, particularly for knowledge workers, AI is reducing parts of cognitive effort. It can help us retrieve information, summarize content, and accelerate many activities that previously required significant time and effort. So the opportunity for well-being is real by implementing and adopting AI. And throughout the history, wherever technology has reduced human effort, it has often improved quality of life and created new opportunities. And the question is not whether AI can improve well-being. The question is where the effort goes next. And this is especially important for knowledge workers. Because for many knowledge workers, AI is not replacing them, it is collaborating with them and augmenting the work that they are doing, augmenting where their cognitive loads and energies are being spent on. So AI can generate 10 reports, but a human still needs to evaluate them. AI can generate options for recommendations, but a human still needs to make that decision. And this is where the risk really emerges. If organizations only focus on how much work AI can generate, they may unintentionally create environments where employees are exposed to increasing levels of cognitive demand, like brain AI fry. So the employee is no longer spending their energy generating information, but they are spending their time reviewing, interpreting, deciding, prioritizing. And that is a different work. And that is a more mentally demanding work. So we have to be aware as organizations what AI is really changing in the work. So I don't think the future of question is whether AI helps well-being or harms well-being. I think the future question is whether organizations really understand the difference between reducing effort and shifting effort. Because if we understand where the effort is moving, we can design work and well-being practices it requires in a way that it improves the well-being and the employee experience.
Exactly. I think that balance is very, very important. As organizations now are accelerating the transformation with AI, what should leaders be start like what leaders should uh, pay attention to traditional productivity metrics that they usually miss?
Yeah, and I think we are still in the early ages of answering that question as organizations and as society, just as previous generations had to develop like traffic rules, safety standards, and physical ergonomics after the introduction of technologies such as automobiles and industrial machines. We are still collectively discovering what would be the equivalent practices will be for AI. But there are three emerging and fundamental questions I recommend every leader that I interact with to start focusing on. The first is, how are we adopting AI and what are we strengthening with it? The ultimate reference point should be, for the answer of this question, human capabilities. especially the judgment, because AI generates recommendations, analysis, options faster than ever before, but faster doesn't automatically mean better. Like for example, we can take recruiting. Pooja was giving the candidate retention example. So AI dramatically reduces time to hire, right? But the more important question and the thing that we start measuring beyond the traditional metrics, such as time to hire, we need to start asking, did we hire better? What's the quality of that hire 6 months later? How is that person performing in the role that they are being hired? Or another aspect could be like, imagine two analysts using the same AI system. One challenges the recommendations, validates assumptions, and looks for gaps what AI is generating. The other simply accepts whatever the AI produces and moves on. Today, both may appear equally productive, right? And maybe even the second one might be observed much more productive compared to the first one. But over time, the first one is strengthening judgment, critical thinking, and practicing those skills in an immense pace, while the other is just gradually outsourcing it to AI. So leaders should pay attention not only to whether AI is being used, but also how their people are using it. And the second question I recommend to start questioning is, are we using AI to cut through the noise and surface the signals that truly matters? Or are we simply giving people just more things to process? Because one of the hidden risks of AI is, as we have mentioned, AI brain fry. And this leads to the third question as well. Are we creating the conditions for necessary cognitive recovery? Most organizations understand physical recovery concept, but not that much with cognitive recovery, especially for the case of knowledge workers. Asking questions such as like, do people have uninterrupted focus time and how much they have? Do they have space to think deeply? Or are they spending every minute reacting to meetings, messages, notifications, and AI generated outputs? What makes this recovery question particularly interesting is that we have been here as a society. I want us to slightly remind ourselves the early industrial revolution times. Factory workers, including children, by the way, often worked 12 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. That was the norm. But over time, society recognized a simple reality. Just because machines could operate 24/7 did not mean human beings should. And that realization eventually led to today's working hour limits, concepts of weekends, labor protections, and occupational safety standards, and many more. So, in other words, we redesigned work around human physiological realities. And as Dr. Tejas has mentioned, we still have a lot to, do in that area to be better. And perhaps the AI age requires us to start asking similar questions about cognitive realities of the human body. What is the cognitively sustainable and healthy workday and work week should look like? How much high intensity decision making can a person realistically perform before the decision quality begins to deteriorate? And honestly, while I enjoy asking these questions and recommending leaders to start think about these questions, I don't think we yet know all the answers, But I do think organizations and perhaps as society as a whole, we should start asking these three important questions. What are we using AI for? How are we using it? And what are the conditions under which humans perform best while working alongside AI? Because the goal is not to protect human beings from AI as if AI is something to be feared or as if AI is like a disease. The goal is to create the conditions where human and AI work together and can achieve better outcomes than either could do alone. So that's what I think we should really start focusing on beyond the traditional productivity metrics.
Thank you, Elif. That was very interesting and good three questions that we should be asking ourselves, right? We are off for time. I think we are over time already. And so we will skip a little bit and we will now straight forward to the final closing. I want to ask you in one sentence, all of you, to all of my panelists, what is one action every leader, manager, or employee can take this week to improve well being at work for themselves or for others? Dr. Tejas.
Thank you, Dr. Lela. So, one action is, I would say, start embodying for the leaders, especially. Start embodying the change that you want to see in the people. So, if you are actually being seen, having an active micro break with a glass of infused water every hour or so and taking a few hundred steps, saying hi to people, going in between meetings, I think that drives home the message for hydration, drives home the message for micro recovery, drives home the message for cognitive overload break, as well as getting your steps in. Thank you.
Okay. Pooja, what's one action you would advise leaders to take?
So I would advise all the leaders present that take one moment this week, pause, and genuinely check with someone or yourself for that matter, because simply noticing that the people are carrying weight is where actually the care begins. That is where you would actually be able to bring that change. So just take that pause, talk to your employees, get connected, and get going.
Alif, what do you have to say? What's one thing you would advise leaders to take?
I would like to add on Pooja's, take a pause. And in that pause, I would like everyone to refresh their memory on what is their strengths and what is their development areas. And be intentional about what you offload to AI. Look, what you're offloading to AI is really amplifying your strengths and supporting you in the development areas, which, let's say, the weaker points that you already have, but you are using AI to uplift you in your development areas. So the goal is not to replace, but to complement. Therefore, it becomes extremely critical to be aware of what is your strength and what is your development area to decide on how you're going to be using AI successfully.
Thank you very much. And the leaders who are listening out there, these are very important points you would like to probably consider implementing from today. Today's discussion reminds us that well being is not separate from performance, it is one of the conditions that makes sustainable performance possible. Whether through leadership, culture, health, technology, or human connection, every organization has an opportunity to create workplaces where people and performance both thrive together. Thank you very much for listening in to us today.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you, everyone.
Ella. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Tejas. Thank you,
Thank
Elif.
you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Pooja, so much for sharing such insightful things. And to our audience, those who are very patient, listening either live or the recorded session later, I want to say three things to you. The first is that please write in comments from where did you join through YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and what is your biggest one takeaway which you will start implementing now. That's the first thing I want from you. The second thing which I want from you is that what topic would you like us to bring which can help your business, your leadership, and your professional development? So please write in comments. That will help us to curate our future events as well, because we want to bring a lot of knowledge. We have experts with us. We want to bring that for you. And the third thing, the most important one, follow our experts. I've shared their links over here. Follow our experts on LinkedIn and different platforms. They are doing excellent work. You will learn a lot of things and excel faster in your career. Follow Evaluated Speaker, because we post lot of events and sessions and insight over there. So follow that one. And thank you so much for joining us today. Please write in comments. Thank you, all
Thank you,
of you. I
everyone.
love you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much,
much.
everybody. Bye bye.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.